So I wrote this book called Trauma Buried 39 Years Deep. And the thing is that when I wrote this book, I was actually 39 years old. And God had opened my eyes to allow me to realize that I had been in survival mode and been living off survival mode for 39 years. And I didn't even realize that I was reacting, out of trauma. Or should I say that trauma was leading my life? And me being the type of person that I am, I don't want anything leading my life, except for God. And another thing about trauma is that you can't identify a person who's going through trauma until they're like usually in critical condition, and at that point they're usually lashing out. And so I was like, God, there are so many people that are being misunderstood all because they're going through trauma. And not just going through trauma, but trauma is leading their life. Trauma is costing their relationships. Trauma is costing their jobs. Trauma is costing their peace. Shoots. Trauma is costing some their own freaking mental mind state. So I was like, God, I'm going through trauma. And what can I do to help others? And so he said, you know what? Go ahead and write things down. So, with me writing this book, I made myself extremely vulnerable because I don't even look like trauma. You would not look at me and see that this young lady is going through trauma. This woman is not going through trauma, but it's childhood trauma that literally was never addressed. And I'm 39 years old, and God allows me to realize what has been going on all these years, and it's been that trauma has been leading the way. And so after I finish, writing this book as I'm going through things, it gave me a different perspective of when it comes to trauma. Can we get rid of trauma? Of course, I don't believe we can get rid of trauma. Why? Because that's something that happened, already. Now, what I can do is I cannot allow that to trigger me, which ends up leading me, which ends up causing me to make decisions that literally I wouldn't have made if I wouldn't have been triggered. So, preferably, you're reading this book and you doing your journaling and you're praying to God, just know that you are going to open yourself up to be vulnerable. And that's the point. You have to open yourself up to be vulnerable. But the most critical part is to be around those who is going to make that opening up a safe space so that you can truly, truly heal and not allow that trauma to cause you to explode in an unhealthy way, which cost you things that you will regret. So, this is a safe space, but you must be honest, you must be real, and just know that I open myself up to be vulnerable so that I can help other people who literally are not going to go to counseling, who's not going to tell somebody else because that trauma, that thing that literally happened to them, sometimes we don't even remember. We seriously forgot. But just know that your body never did forget, and that's the reason why you're reacting the way that you're reacting. I also want to state that I'm not any licensed anything. I'm only speaking of my own experiences. But one thing that I can say is that I've survived two government shutdowns now and two recessions, and I am still in my right mind. So thank you so much for taking the time out to actually listen to this audiobook. I pray that it blesses you in ways that you never could have imagined. Just remember, you can overcome trauma and not be led by trauma.